All right, and from this VDB from particles business here, we don't need it to make a actual surface thing here. What we need it to do is take all the velocity attributes on these incoming particles and populate a velocity VDB, and it's going to store vector types. We want it to do a velocity trail. You see, it just got huge. That's because the velocity speed that's coming out of here is in speed per second. So what we actually want this to convert this down into is the time increment. So 1 divided by the frame. So you can see now the box is a more reasonable size. We're also definitely don't need it to be one full unit. We'll dial this in a second, but I'm just going to set that preliminarily. So now actually, how do we view this? We'll need a volume trail. And we'll need a volume slice. And this is a fun little trick. Volume slice will at least show us, let's move over to it. So the slice is, kind of like with the smoke object itself. We can slide this thing through it. And so it's showing us all of our cool velocity things. So, if we have our points coming out of here, or rather this is the VDB again. If we have our points coming out of here, moving pretty fast actually. Might want to maybe not have it go quite as crazy. Some of these are going a little too fast. So let's fix that real quick. Maybe we'll have it do this. So this is going to feed right into the simulation. And already I don't like what I say. So let's put this back up to maybe 0.8. That's not too bad. Or more appropriately, I think we're just going a little too crazy with this guy. So this is a better spread. I'm just going to bring down the overall velocity here. That's not too bad. Let's see. And I'll probably jump back into the particle sim itself and maybe just have them die out faster. I just don't want my velocity field to get out of control, meaning I don't want it to be too big, and this effect will be pretty subtle anyway, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Bam, that's not too bad. Cool. So back in here, we've got our volume slice, and we see this is the kind of area that's going to be stamped into our volume. It's pretty big. We don't need it. We don't want it to be that big because these are going to be. These velocity streaks are what's going to define our jagged edges or our jagged like spears coming out of the initial explosion. So I'm going to set the voxel size down to 0.025, and I don't think that'll get away from us. It does get a little big over here, but it's not too bad. Cool. So they're not too big. I'm going to say maybe we'll make this even a little bit smaller. That's pretty good. And I guess especially considering that we're going to be all the way back here. That seems fine. Great. So the volume trail takes points, and this mesh, this volume slice generates a mesh actually with a point at each voxel. So if we take the velocity from the one thing and the mesh from the other, it will advect points through the system. So now we can just move the offset slicey thingy here, and you can see as I move through, we're getting the different velocity vectors. And you can see how these kind of switch direction as we pass through the sphere there. Cool. So all we need to do is add that into our simulation, and then we should have some nice little features. It'll be a subtle thing, but it'll be a nice look, and it'll break up that initial ball shape. So I'm going to say vel source for this, and this is a good example of how to use nulls, where we're going to source right from this. Even though I'm having this is the visual output, our simulation is going to point to that. Cool. So that's enough of looking at that, and now we just need to add it into our sim over here. I'm not even going to cache those points because they're just, the simulation there, as you saw, is instantaneous. For that many particles, it's only 100 particles maybe. Who cares? I am going to make a separate source volume. This is just like the microsolvers, where if I have two, I just merge them together here. And in the case of this, I only want velocity. We'll just add it in, and we'll point to that vel source path here. For now, I'm going to say we'll keep the velocity at 1. I'm not really sure. I am going to put this back down to 150, which I already did apparently. And let's see. Let's see if we can really get a sense of this. Let's go around a bit. So I can already see there's like a jagged spike there, and there's one kind of coming out there. It's not that pronounced right now. It's not nothing, and I bet if I fly around this, I'll probably see more. You can see some of these areas tearing away here. Let's try just to see what we see. As usual, we'll do too much, and then we can scale it back. So let's see what happens now. So now we're definitely seeing it more. You can see a jagged, you can see the spikes coming out here, 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 here. And this will give the impression of a quicker initial explosion. And it'll also shape, much like our turbulence microsolver does, it'll shape the direction that everything moves in. At least subtly, because they are, small little paths. This is a pretty delicate kind of thing. If we dumped a lot of particles in here, we would basically just get like a spherical velocity field moving in every direction away. Actually, I should close this guy out and make a new one. So because we only have like 50 individual paths, it shows up better as opposed to just flooding with particles, and then it would be hard to see. So now you can kind of get a sense of it, where you can see these subtle paths shoot out in different directions, and you could feel the debris. This pew, pew. Now this is more of a jet of flame, but I still feel like it gives this sudden nature to it. Another little fun trick too that we'll probably do later is I tend to just not use the first frame or two and make it seem more instantaneous. Great. So that's just a fun little way to add more detail, more subtle detail. And these are, again, the things that will make your work stand out from that of others.